I'm utterly disappointed in you." These words from the department head, Lorraine, pierced my ears. As I cleared my desk, I felt the cold gaze of my female boss and heard the snickers of those around me. I, once a promising new graduate, never imagined stumbling like this. Lorraine, who was the cause of it all, smiled maliciously. "I heard that your wife even dumped you. She served you divorce papers the day after the personal change, didn't she? What about it? Just thinking how pitiful it is." Lorraine chuckled mockingly. I glared at her briefly, lifting a cardboard box filled with my belongings. My wife was no longer at home, leaving only the divorce papers in my possession. She took all the furniture with her, and even our savings. I guess it was the sign of my failure as a husband. My transfer to a rural backwater was due to harassment from my new female boss. Though Lorraine often sneered at me, I never expected to be blamed for the work mistakes that she made. Blamed for them, I was transferred to a branch office in the countryside. My ex-wife, whom I married right after university, left me, probably thinking I let her down. While packing up my things, I was approached by my colleague, Jordan. "I'm going to miss you around here." "Well, there's nothing I can do. I'm no longer needed here." "Then, there must be something for you to do in the new place you're going to." "Maybe. Thanks for everything. See you." I left my old workplace with all my belongings, and soon after that, I moved to the rural town I was relegated to. What a joy to have such a young guy join us right at the start of the year. Welcome aboard. Cheers. On the first day of work at the branch office, everyone welcomed me, even throwing a welcome party in the meeting room. The treatment here was so different from what I received at the head office. Man, there are only older people working here, barely managing to use the modern technology. We can type on Word, like we used to do on a typewriter, but that's about it. Do you even know what a typewriter is? Yes, I do. Now you can show us how to use these new phones too. Taking photos and videos, sending emails. I'd love to learn about apps too. As we were talking over drinks, I couldn't help thinking, seriously. Indeed, there were hardly any young people living in this remote town, and I was surprised to find most employees at this branch office were rehired retirees. It's nice to be employed at this age, but we're not tech-savvy. We're having trouble using computers, and there's no one to teach us how to use them. That's right, we can't even use Excel. We still work with pen and paper, so whatever we do, it just takes a long time. We can find anyone with computer skills, even if we advertise for a part-time job. I see. I wondered if I could really make it in a place like this. Although I was feeling uneasy about working at this branch office, I had no choice but began working, welcomed by everyone. The next day, I found myself teaching computer basics to seniors at work. Let's see. First, basic chart creation in Excel, and perhaps the function used in the advanced course. I printed out meticulously formatted manuals on A4 papers for everyone. By using the manuals, I hoped to prevent the situation where they would start saying, "Oh, I asked about this before, but I forgot." The elderly staff here were forgetful, but eager to learn by taking notes. I made the manuals as clear as possible, with large diagrams and illustrations. The old computers at the company were a challenge too. I negotiated with the headquarters to arrange newer computers through a rental service. There shouldn't be any more excuses for not being able to do office work due to Excel issues. I'm just curious, since nobody knew how to use Excel. Who was handling the office work before I came here? Puzzled, I asked my colleague, Henry, about it. It was Emma. She's the daughter of Max, who lives nearby. She got a job in a city after graduating from college, but the company she was working for went bankrupt due to the recession. She couldn't find another job, so she came back home. She worked here for a while as an office clerk, but then she had to quit due to some family issues. Well, with what happened, it couldn't be helped. What happened? It's nothing. Without saying anything further, Henry returned to his desk. Why did she quit when there was no other work in this town? What could have happened? For a long time, I was wondering about this girl named Emma. Some time had passed. Then on one weekend, the weather suddenly changed. One minute it was sunny, and the next we had a downpour. I couldn't even hang the laundry outside. I was thinking, looking out the window, when someone visited the old house I was renting. I hurried to the door as the doorbell rang repeatedly, and there stood a woman, drenched in the rain. "Hi, what happened? You're soaking wet. What's going on?" I couldn't help but ask the woman. "Hi, sorry to bother you. My father has gone missing. Have you seen an elderly man in his pajamas around here?" "No, I haven't seen anyone." Hearing that, she looked down and said, "I see." I handed her a towel and asked, "Your father is missing." She nodded silently to my question. "Have you contacted the police?" "Yes, I have. They're searching for him as we speak." As if on cue, the public address system announced a missing elderly man. The missing person is Max Saran, 58 years old, of medium build. "Wait, Max. Are you Emma?" "Yes, that's me." I was surprised. The woman in front of me was Emma, the one Henry mentioned the other day at the office, the former employee of our company. The missing person was her father. Then I explained to her that I was working at the company where Emma used to work. She seemed a bit relieved and started to share her story. She told me about her father's dementia and the need for care, which led her to quit her job, that it was not easy to make ends meet, but somehow she was managing with the government support and her little savings. But lately, my father started wandering off frequently, and I can't deal with it on my own anymore. "I see. I've talked to his care manager about placing my father in a care facility." With a sigh, she continued, "But I'm not sure if it's the right thing to do, putting him in a care facility. I feel guilty, especially after he supported me through college. Maybe I should continue taking care of him myself." Tears welled up in her eyes. She must have been thinking about this alone for quite some time. "I see. That must be really tough. Thank you for sharing this with me." "Oh, I should be going now. Are you going to continue looking for your father on your own?" "Yes. I can keep bothering others with this. You should change out of those wet clothes, even if it's warm outside." "Oh." Her face turned red. Embarrassed, she hugged herself and looked down. "Oh, no, I'm sorry for my appearance." Just then, the emergency broadcast resumed. "Max has been found safe. Thank you all for your assistance." "Oh, they found my father. That's great to hear." "Yes, I'm so glad. Thank you," she said with a smile. I found myself worrying about her and impulsively offered my help. "If you like, I can come with you to pick up your father. I can bring my car right now." "But that'll be too much. We've just met. I'm an employee of the company you used to work for. I heard about you from others. Given the situation, let me help you." "Okay, thank you." She reluctantly agreed to my offer. After that, I drove her to pick up Max. Exhausted, Max was sound asleep in the hospital bed. He had been found with a bruised hip and was scheduled to get some tests done the next day. For precaution, he was admitted to the hospital. I ended up driving him home. It must be really tough, taking care of your father all by yourself. Not at all. It's something everyone does. During the drive, we talked a lot. She seemed anxious about her future, as she was unable to work but had to care for her father. "I'd prefer to stay at home as much as possible," she said, looking vulnerable. Hearing her story, I came up with a suggestion. "But I'm not sure if I can manage it. I'm already overwhelmed with my father's care. It might be better to consider placing your father in a care facility sooner. What if something like today happens again and he's not found?" "That's true, but at least in a care facility, the risk of him wandering off would be significantly reduced. I know. I'll think about it. Thank you for your advice. I might have been interfering, but I thought something needed to be done for her before it was too late. Shortly thereafter, I decided to bring up a matter at the company. I made a suggestion to the company that some of the computer-based tasks should be outsourced. The proposed contractor was Emma. I'm anxious about balancing work from home and caregiving, but I'll give it a try. Having some income will make life a bit easier as well. I agree. I'll do my best. The company quickly approved the proposal, and Emma began assisting with our office work. She also started searching for a care facility to take in her father. Continuing caregiving without a job was financially challenging, and to avoid repeating her father's missing incidents, it seemed necessary to find a facility for him. I'll miss living with my father, but I've realized it's selfish of me to keep him at home, she said with a wistful smile. Some time later, a place for her father in a facility was secured. Located next to the hospital in town, it provided reassurance of immediate medical care if needed. Emma told me about this with a smile. Hearing this, I said to her, "That's great. Your work is highly praised at the company. Now, would you consider coming back to the office to work with us? There's no need for you to work from home anymore. Teaching everyone about computers is quite a task for me." Laughing, I made my offer, and she responded with surprise, "Really? Is that okay?" "Yes, in fact, the company is keen on rehiring you. What do you think?" "Yes, I would love to accept that offer," she answered enthusiastically. No, thank you for joining our team again," I said in return. Emma was rehired and returned to our company. "Looking forward to working with you again, Emma. We're so relieved to have you back. With a young presence, the workplace will be livelier." "I'll do my best again." Seeing her sparkling smile, I felt a flutter of excitement. Initially, I wasn't sure if I could make it in this rural town, but I've started feeling that I would be fine. I suddenly remembered what my old colleague, Jordan, said to me before I came here. "There must be something for you to do." Yes, there must be something for me to do here. Feeling a sense of destiny, I resolved to give my best in this town from now on. She managed to get into our company despite disappearing right after high school. Didn't even go to college, and now you're just a temp. That's laughable. I unexpectedly ran into a classmate from high school at my new workplace, someone I had cut ties with due to their disdainful attitude towards me. Although I didn't attend college due to certain circumstances, she seems to be under the mistaken belief that I am just a temporary employee. Then, with a wicked smile, she said, "I'll take extra good care of you starting today," so I decided to respond with a smile as well. "No, that's my line." Saying that, I watched as my classmate fell into despair. "My name is Alex. I must admit, my family is quite wealthy. My father runs a company, and my mother is a homemaker. Being an only child, my parents spared no expense in my education, sending me to private schools and elementary school. I was often the leader in my classes, probably because I was decent in both academics and sports. I attended a prestigious K-12 school, so naturally, I progressed to its middle school. In middle school, I continued to play a leading role in class and even served as the class rep. Thanks to my parents' support, I maintained top grades and enjoyed a fun school life with friends from my elementary days. Then, one day, a new student transferred into my class. I'm Elizabeth. I was living in France until last month, so speaking English is still a bit difficult for me. Nice to meet you." Elizabeth, a returnee from France with a French father and American mother, was undeniably beautiful, instantly becoming the center of attention in the class. The class was buzzing with excitement. "Elizabeth, your seat will be next to Alex. He's the class rep, so if you have any trouble, Feel free to ask him for help, said our teacher, Mr. Miller. Realizing I was being handed all the responsibilities, I jokingly said, Mr. Miller, isn't this a bit of a dump on me? Alex, as the class rep, is more approachable for someone your age. All right, let's start the morning meeting. Elizabeth, please take your seat, he replied. Elizabeth sat down next to me. Nice to meet you, I greeted her. Nice to meet you too, she replied, making me smile. Elizabeth was incredibly beautiful. Her uniqueness, coming from France to this private middle school, quickly made her the center of attention in our class and popular throughout the grade. I think her innocent and adorable personality was one of the reasons for her popularity. Moreover, Elizabeth's English, slightly awkward due to recent stay in France, ended up being considered adorable and further increased her popularity. Moreover, Elizabeth and I turned out to be neighbors. I had noticed a moving truck in front of the long vacant house next door and remembered my mom saying, "The Martins moved in next door." When I first heard Elizabeth's name, I thought, Martin is a common surname, never imagining she'd be my classmate. I discovered she was my neighbor purely by chance, encountering her as we both left for school one morning. Since we were classmates, avoiding her would be strange, so I decided to speak up. Good morning. Autumn, good morning. Why are you here? I live in the house next door. You're my neighbor. Jer, seems like it. Want to walk to school together? Jess, let's go. It turns out that while Elizabeth often spoke English with her mother at home in France, she still found French easier to speak. Alex, how do you say this in English? It's flower, which means fleur in French. Flower, got it. Haha, the native pronunciation is really different, isn't it? English is difficult. There's no other way but to get used to it. Let's talk a lot like this. Sure, Elizabeth replied energetically, and we laughed together. Soon after we started walking to school together, we were teased. Are you two dating already? I responded, we just happen to live next door. Besides, I'm her mentor here. Then everyone in the class seemed to accept it, saying, well, that makes sense. That's how we naturally started walking to and from school together. During our walks, I would teach Elizabeth English, and she would teach me French. Her French lessons were easy to understand, and she said, Alex's English lessons are really clear. Thanks to this, my French improved significantly, and my grades in French rose as well. Gradually, Elizabeth's English also became more fluent. In no time, we were in our third year of middle school, and it was time to think about our future paths. Our school was a K-12 institution, so we could continue to high school and college without changing schools. However, wanting to experience the outside world, I decided to attend a different high school. After discussing with my parents and getting their approval, and with encouraging words from Mr. Miller like, with your grades, you'll be fine, I passed the entrance exam for the top high school in the county. Surprisingly, I found Elizabeth at the same exam venue. She was also applying to this high school. Why are you here, Elizabeth? I asked. I thought I'd try applying to an external school, she said with a smile. Elizabeth also passed, and we both entered the same high school that fall. In high school, Elizabeth's beauty, accentuated by her mixed heritage, became even more pronounced. She was popular, academically excellent, and always in the spotlight. Right from the start, she was entered into the school's beauty contest held during the fall festival, without her knowledge. Seeing how popular she had become, she started to seem like a distant celebrity on TV to me. It's strange, we used to sit next to each other in class and live next door. As for me, being from the same middle school as Elizabeth, I was constantly asked for her contact information, to pass on letters, and to help set up meetings with her by other guys, which I try my best to avoid. Initially, we went to high school together, just like in middle school. But as Elizabeth became busy with her duties as class rep and started going to school with other friends, we gradually grew apart. Well, I made my own friends too, so perhaps it was a natural divergence of social circles. I felt a bit lonely but thought it was probably for the best since things couldn't stay the same as in middle school. Although we had grown apart, we still greeted each other normally and talked occasionally. We had settled into a relationship of just classmates. After starting part-time work in high school, I made friends with classmates from other schools and enjoyed expanding my world outside of school. In my second year, I chose the liberal arts track and ended up in the same class as Elizabeth, but we hardly talked. Our conversations, when they did happen, were brief, and as classmates, I spent more time talking and hanging out with a few other boys in our liberal arts class and would head straight to work after school. Elizabeth was busy with her club activities, so it was rare for us to interact. In my senior year, I got into a hobby with friends from other schools and started focusing more on that. I'd rather be doing this than going to school, but I have to attend. Honestly, I had started neglecting school, attending only in name and often just sleeping for everything but the lessons. I would sometimes fall asleep even during class, earning scoldings from my teachers. Then, one day, Elizabeth, as a class rep, suddenly asked me, "Alex, what are you doing at such a crucial time in your senior year?" It had been a long time since we had a conversation like this. "Just busy with various things," I replied. "What kind of things?" "Nothing that concerns you, Elizabeth. It's just something I enjoy doing." Hearing this, Elizabeth looked visibly upset. I absent-mindedly thought about how Elizabeth still wears her emotions on her sleeve. "If it's none of my business, I can't say much, but you need to be careful. It will affect your grades and your transcript," Elizabeth warned. "Yeah, I'll be more mindful. Thanks, Elizabeth." Though I replied this way, I continued to be busy with my own things, spending most of my days at school sleeping. We overcame the midterms and finals, and then it was summer break. While everyone else was attending summer courses as part of their university entrance exam preparations, I didn't attend any and spent my time immersed in part-time work. During this period, I rarely went home, so I didn't attend school either. I received messages from Elizabeth and other classmates asking, "Aren't you taking the summer courses?" However, I only replied, "I'm too busy with various things to attend." Then, when September arrived and summer break ended, as I entered the classroom saying, "Good morning," Elizabeth appeared in front of me. "Alex, what do you mean by not attending any of the summer classes?" she exclaimed. "Huh? You were the only one in our class who didn't attend. What were you doing while everyone else was working hard?" I didn't quite understand why Elizabeth was so upset about me not attending the classes, but I decided to be honest about what I had decided over the summer. "I've decided not to go to college. There's something I want to do after graduating from high school, so I'm going to pursue that." Elizabeth looked at me, astonished. "I can't believe it. You're always sleeping in class, and now you're not even considering college. I never thought you were such a slothful person." "Slothful? Going to college isn't everything in life. Besides, I can always go to college if I feel like it, but right now, I want to focus on what I really want to do." "Life isn't that easy. It won't just work out like that." Elizabeth seemed on the verge of tears as she said this. I didn't understand why she was getting so emotional, but I was well aware that life isn't easy. "I know. That's why I'm working hard right now, preparing so I don't fail," I replied, but Elizabeth gave me a sharp look and returned to her seat. After that, Elizabeth never spoke to me again. Later, I heard from her mother that Elizabeth got into a famous national university. It seems that all of my classmates, except for me, got accepted into universities. My teacher, Mr. Anderson, repeatedly suggested, "Alex, you should consider going to college too," but I consistently declined. Eventually, I graduated from high school and left home. 10 years passed, and I was now 28. Since then, I had been following my own path, achieved my goals, and was working every day. And today, I am at my new workplace. I was excited to be working somewhere different from where I had been previously employed. I wondered about my new colleagues, hoping they would be good people. As I was thinking this, Alex, someone called my name. I turned around to see my colleague, Michael. Michael, good to see you looking well. Of course, man, you too. Michael, whom I hadn't seen in a while, playfully slapped my shoulder, and I returned the gesture. What brings you here, busy as you are? I thought I'd give you a tour of the office. Really, you? Yeah, I'm the most knowledgeable about this place. Let's go, newbie. I'm not a newbie. We laughed as Michael showed me around the office. Although the company has its own cafeteria, I wanted to see what was around the office. During the lunch break, I walked around and found a nearby cafe. It seemed they had a lunch menu. Perfect, I'll eat here, I thought to myself. I decided to enter the cafe. After being seated and ordering from the lunch menu, I was checking my phone when... could it be, Alex? I heard my name and looked up to see a woman standing there. She had beautiful features and somewhat resembled Elizabeth, my childhood friend. But it's been nearly 10 years since I last saw Elizabeth, so I had no idea how she might look now. Why do you know my name? It's me, Elizabeth. We were together in high school, remember? Really, Elizabeth? I stood up in surprise. Yes, I'm Elizabeth. I wasn't sure if you were really Alex either. I'm surprised you recognized me. I just thought you looked similar, Elizabeth said with a laugh. Somehow, it felt like a long time since I had seen Elizabeth smile. It was not just because it had been a long time since we met, but I felt like I hadn't seen her smile much. But why are you here? Oh, I just transferred to a company nearby today. Which company? Well, do you know Moonworld? That's where I'm working now. Moonworld? I work there. What? I had no idea Elizabeth was an employee in my company. It was completely unexpected. Come to think of it, I heard a new guy was starting today. Could that be you? Maybe so. Our company was actively recruiting mid-career hires, so new employees joining wasn't unusual. So, you're a temp then. I heard the new guy was a temp. Temp me. Elizabeth looked down on me as if she had made some conclusion. You disappeared right after high school, and now you've managed to get into our company. Wait, her words seemed quite sharp. So, you didn't go to college, and now you're just a temp. That's laughable. Elizabeth laughed more and said, from today, as a regular employee and your senior, I'll be taking good care of you, with a mischievous smile. No, that would be my line. I replied to Elizabeth with a smile. What? Sorry, but I'm actually your boss. I'm not a temp. I'm the vice president of Moonworld. Elizabeth's mouth dropped open at my words, and after a moment, she said, What are you talking about? Is this some kind of joke? It's no joke. I pulled out my business card and handed it to a still stunned Elizabeth. It read, Alex Carter, Vice President, Moonworld Corporation. This must be fake. There's no way. Is this some kind of fabrication? Elizabeth was frantically examining the business card, flipping it over and holding it up to the light. I mean, there's no reason for me to fabricate such a business card. She still couldn't believe it. No, it's true, I said. Just then, I heard, Hey, Alex. Today seems to be a day for being called out, and there was Michael. President Thompson. Hey, Elizabeth, you're here too. Having lunch? Yes. Alex, are you eating here? Mind if I join? Michael asked, so, of course, I agreed. Sure, let's eat together. Michael sat down beside me, called the waiter, and ordered the same lunch. President Thompson, This person is our company's vice president." When Elizabeth spoke to Michael, he casually confirmed, "Yeah, that's right. Alex had been working overseas for us, but we recently transferred him to the headquarters. Did you two know each other? You're about the same age, right? Elizabeth and I were classmates in middle and high school." "Wow, really? That's quite a coincidence." Michael laughed. Soon, the lunch Michael and I ordered arrived, and we enjoyed our meal while chatting. Watching Michael and me talk amiably, Elizabeth seemed stunned and muttered, "So it really was true. I first met Michael at a fast food restaurant where I started working in high school. He was the same age and we hit it off immediately. One day, I want to do something big, rather than just living an ordinary life." One day, when Michael said that, I strongly agreed with him. I thought living a life of just going to college, getting a job at some company, and working there seemed uninteresting. Looking back, it might have been a childish longing to do something different from everyone else. But Michael and I decided to make our dream a reality. After discussing what we could do together, we decided to start our own company. Since Michael surprisingly liked cute things and curiosities, we came up with the idea of sourcing these items from around the world and selling them. Thanks to Elizabeth, during our school commutes, I had become proficient in French. So I traveled the world sourcing these items while Michael, attending a commercial high school, handled the administrative aspects. Neglecting high school, we prepared for our venture with advice from my father, who ran his own company. As our high school graduation approached, we finalized our preparations, and soon after, Michael and I co-founded our company. I traveled back and forth between US and abroad, collecting goods, while Michael sold them online and in stores. Of course, at first, we faced many challenges and dangers during our trips abroad. We often ended up with products that broke easily or had our wallets and phones stolen countless times. Together, Michael and I overcame these obstacles, and gradually, our company's transactions increased, leading to its successful expansion. We were able to grow our workforce and have brought the company to where it is today. Now, we have branches in both US and overseas, and until recently, I was at our overseas branch. But Michael, the president, said, "Isn't it about time you come back to US?" As a successful young president, Michael was often interviewed by magazines, and he would always talk about me, his co-founder. Since I was abroad, explaining my absence became a hassle for him. Michael suggested we do the interview together. It'd be less of a hassle, but I was starting to miss home and wanted to return to US. So I handed over the overseas branch to someone else and made my way back. Getting used to the work in US, I was relaxing at a cafe near the office after work. As I sighed and took a moment to relax, there was Elizabeth again. She stood beside me, looking like she had something she wanted to say. "Hey, Elizabeth, what's up?" I wanted to apologize to Alex." "For what?" "Have a seat first," I said, inviting her to sit down, and quickly ordered a drink for her. "I'm sorry about the other day. I mistakenly thought you were a temp and made fun of her high school graduation status. Don't worry about it. It was my fault for causing the misunderstanding." The next day, a new temp named Robert actually joined the company, so it was understandable for Elizabeth to be confused. "And in high school, I said you were a slothful person without really knowing anything about you." "Oh, did you say that? Now that I can say it, I've always liked you, Alex." "What, really?" I was genuinely surprised by Elizabeth's sudden confession. "I was happy when you were kind to me after I transferred, and I really enjoyed walking to and from school with you. That's why I followed you to the same high school, but we started drifting apart, right? In our second year, when we were in the same class, I thought we could get closer again, but you were always sleeping in school, and we hardly talked. It felt like you drifted away, and I felt somewhat betrayed. It was all my selfish feelings, though." So Elizabeth felt the same way back then. "I thought maybe if we went to the same university, we could spend time together again, But then you said you weren't going to college, and I got really upset. That's why I said life isn't easy and called you slothful. I regret it now." Elizabeth's voice turned formal towards the end, making me laugh. "And even though you were always sleeping in school, you were always at the top of the class, which I thought. I made sure to stay awake in class in high school, and I didn't want to get scolded for bad grades. Despite how it looks, I did study on my own. My parents said I could do whatever I wanted as long as I graduated from high school, so I kept my grades at least at a minimum level." I reminisced. Those days were tough, juggling startup preparations, studies, and part-time work. But they were fulfilling. High school teachers don't say much as long as your grades are good. Yeah, but they kept asking me to go to college. Of course they would. A top student not going to college would be a big deal for a prestigious school. Actually, Mr. Anderson even asked me to persuade you to go to college, Elizabeth said. Mr. Anderson asked you to. He must have been really desperate. Elizabeth and I then had a lively conversation, filling in the time we missed talking to each other in high school. I noticed in high school how Elizabeth was becoming more popular, and it felt like she was moving away from me. Hearing this, Elizabeth murmured, "I wonder if we wouldn't have drifted apart if we had been more honest with our feelings back then." Maybe. I wondered how Elizabeth would have reacted if I had told her back then, "Actually, I'm starting a business." Would she have supported me? Or would she have advised me to give up on that idea? After a brief silence. "Hey, Elizabeth, how about we start over as friends again?" "What?" "I was really happy about your confession. We drifted apart in high school, even as friends, but I've been thinking, I want to enjoy spending time with you again," I said. Elizabeth nodded in tears at my words. "Yeah, let's start over." From then on, Elizabeth and I began spending time together again as colleagues and friends. We went out for meals together, sometimes with Michael and other employees, and even hung out as a group. Elizabeth was just as innocently charming as before. Despite occasional arguments, I enjoyed the days spent with her. Eventually, I realized I liked Elizabeth and wanted to be with her more. The deciding factor was when a tipsy Elizabeth said one night, "The happiest time of my life was walking to and from school with you in middle school." Really. Even when I dated others, I always thought the happiest time was when I spent time with you, she confessed. I was genuinely touched, realizing she had such feelings for me. Since I knew Elizabeth was single, during one of our dinners, I decided to confess. "Spending time as friends, I've realized I like you, Elizabeth. Will you go out with me?" I asked. "Yes," Elizabeth quickly nodded, and we started dating. About a year later, today marks the first anniversary of Elizabeth and my relationship. I decided to propose to Elizabeth today, planning the ultimate classic proposal. The venue is a restaurant with a beautiful night view. I meticulously planned the surprise proposal, coordinating everything with the restaurant staff. Midway through the meal, I excused myself to change into a tuxedo. I thought I might be overdoing it with the attire, but it's a special occasion, so I encouraged myself. Then, returning to our table, I knelt before Elizabeth and said, "Elizabeth, I will make you happy forever. Will you marry me?" Elizabeth nodded, tears in her eyes, and said, "Yes, I'd be honored." Having once prioritized my own ambitions and lost something important, I was grateful for the chance to start over and find happiness like this. Moving forward, I want to make spending time with Elizabeth my top priority. Although I'm still young and might make mistakes in prioritizing. Elizabeth might too. This time, we intend to avoid drifting apart, openly sharing our thoughts and walking for life together.